Welcome to Mr. Hutchings History, where the past comes alive. Let's dive into today's story.
Hey everybody, and welcome back for another deep dive
This time we're going back to 1963,
to the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom,
which was a pivotal moment in the civil rights movement.
and really for the entire country.
Absolutely.
Now we're going to take a deep dive into the events leading up to the march
And the march itself.
and the long-lasting impact it had on American society.
You got it.
So to really set the stage for this,
Yeah.
we kind of have to go back
Rewind a little.
to the early months of 1963.
You're absolutely right. It wasn't just any other day.
To really grasp the significance of the march, we need to rewind to early 1963,
The movement was gaining momentum.
with major victories in Birmingham.
But then,
Television brought the brutal reality of police violence against peaceful protesters.
into living rooms across America.
Yeah.
Imagine seeing those images for the first time.
The sheer
With
brutality.
the raw courage.
Right.
It ignited a firestorm.
A sense of urgency that something had to change.
Absolutely. It's amazing how the media landscape of the time played such a crucial role, isn't it?
Today, we're bombarded with images, but back then, seeing that on TV,
It was a game changer.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the strategic brilliance of the March on Washington.
This wasn't just about marching for broad ideals like equality.
It was about applying direct pressure on President Kennedy.
He'd proposed the Civil Rights Act that year,
Okay.
but it was facing stiff opposition in Congress
The march was a powerful reminder to JFK
and the entire nation.
that the promises of equality enshrined in America's founding documents.
Remained unfulfilled for millions.
It's like a friend reminding you of a promise you made, but on a massive scale, right?
Hey, remember that whole all men are created equal thing?
It's time to make good on that.
Exactly. In fact, Martin Luther King Jr. himself framed it perfectly.
When he spoke of America giving Black Americans a bad check.
A powerful metaphor that resonated deeply.
Okay, let's unpack this bad check metaphor a bit.
It's such a powerful image even today.
What made it so effective?
King was a master orator.
And he deliberately chose this analogy for its visceral impact.
Think about it. A bad check represents a broken promise
A debt unpaid.
by framing it this way.
MLK tapped into the deep sense of betrayal felt by Black Americans.
Who were denied basic rights and opportunities despite being promised equality under the law.
And it wasn't just the words
That
themselves.
was the context.
The sheer number of people who showed up that day to demand change.
Right.
Can you paint a picture of what it was like on August 28, 1963?
Imagine this. 250,000 people.
A sea of humanity
Wow.
gathered on the National Mall.
All converging on the Lincoln Memorial.
It was the largest civil rights demonstration the nation had ever seen.
And it wasn't just Black Americans demanding change.
It was a diverse crowd of people from all walks of life,
Black and white.
young and old.
United in their call for jobs and freedom.
It's incredible.
To be a part of that crowd.
Feeling the energy
Hope.
must have been electric.
And the location itself.
The Lincoln Memorial.
Right.
That must have amplified the message even more.
Absolutely.
It's like speaking truth to power right on its doorstep.
You're spot on. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone
Here they were, standing in the shadow of Lincoln,
who signed the Emancipation Proclamation.
demanding America fully live up to its promise of liberty and justice for all.
That you mention.
The energy that day was electric,
There were other speakers before King,
right?
each adding their voice to the cause.
But
What's fascinating is that the speech we remember most.
the I Have a Dream speech
Yeah.
wasn't even on the original program.
Wait, really?
I'd heard that, but it's wild to think.
Such a pivotal moment in history almost didn't happen.
It's true.
How did that even come about?
As the story goes,
Gospel singer Mahalia Jackson.
who was also part of the program,
Okay.
sensed the crowd's energy.
And she urged King to tell them about the dream.
Wow.
She'd heard him speak about it before.
And she knew its power.
And thank goodness she did.
Sometimes those unscripted moments are the ones that truly resonate through time.
Yeah.
It's like in that moment, MLK tapped into something much bigger than himself.
Precisely.
And if we dive into the I Have a Dream section,
We see why it continues to resonate with people from all walks of life. It's not just about the civil rights movement.
it's about fundamental human rights.
Right, like those timeless values of freedom.
Equality, justice.
And they transcend any specific time period or social movement.
King masterfully wove together strands of American history
Religious illusions.
and his own vision for a just society.
He spoke of the fierce urgency of now.
reminding everyone that this wasn't just an abstract ideal.
Right.
It was about tangible change.
And it was needed then and there.
And he didn't shy away from the harsh realities faced by Black Americans.
That bad check metaphor.
It wasn't just a turn of phrase.
Right.
It was a visceral representation of the systemic racism and broken promises.
That had plagued the nation for far too long.
Absolutely.
And that's the genius of his oratory.
He could speak to the pain and frustration.
While simultaneously offering a message of hope.
A vision of a future where his children would be judged not by the color of their skin,
but by the content of their character.
That line.
It's so powerful yet so simple.
It's something we should all strive for even today.
Absolutely.
But beyond the immediate impact of his words,
how did the march itself,
massive gathering,
actually translate into tangible change?
March's impact was both immediate and far-reaching.
You had 250,000 people peacefully assembling,
showcasing the movement's strength and determination.
It forced the government to take notice.
Right, because you can't ignore 250,000 people.
It's a powerful visual.
A testament to the collective will of the people.
Exactly.
And with news spreading globally,
the pressure on the U.S. to address its racial injustices amplified.
The world was watching.
So it wasn't just symbolic.
It had real political teeth.
Absolutely.
Kennedy met with civil rights leaders after the march,
reaffirming his commitment to the cause.
Sadly,
he was assassinated before the Civil Rights Act could be passed.
Right.
But then Lyndon B. Johnson,
his successor,
harnessed the momentum of the march and the national outcry over Kennedy's death
to push the Civil Rights Act through Congress.
Wow.
Think about that.
This monumental legislation,
finally outlining segregation in key areas,
was deeply intertwined with the March on Washington.
It's incredible to think how a single event like this
convergence of people and purpose,
could create such a ripple effect.
It's true.
It speaks to the power of collective action, doesn't it?
It does.
And it reminds us that social change doesn't happen overnight.
It's a process.
Right.
A long and winding road with setbacks and triumphs along the way.
The march was a pivotal turning point.
But the journey towards equality was far from over.
And that's something that often gets lost, I think.
We tend to view historical events in isolation.
But they're all connected,
right,
part of this larger tapestry of human experience.
That's a great point.
And speaking of connections,
we can't forget the enduring legacy of King's "I Have a Dream" speech out of all the powerful words spoken that day.
Why do you think those specific words,
that specific speech,
to continue to resonate so deeply?
Even today.
That's a great question.
Why do you think that is?
What makes it stand the test of time? As we touched upon earlier,
it speaks to universal values.
Fundamental human desires for freedom,
right,
equality,
and justice.
These are aspirations that transcend time and place,
making the message relevant to people from all walks of life,
regardless of their background or beliefs.
It's like a universal language,
speaking to that shared human experience of wanting a better world,
a more just world.
Exactly.
And then there's King's masterful use of rhetoric,
drawing on the power of Black church tradition.
His words weren't just spoken.
They were felt.
Yeah.
He infused them with such raw emotion,
such deep conviction,
that they bypassed the intellect and went straight to the heart.
You can almost hear it in his voice.
The passion.
The urgency.
Even just reading the words on the page.
And let's not forget the historical context.
The civil rights movement was gaining traction.
Right.
But true equality still felt a long way off.
The "I Have a Dream" speech gave people hope.
A vision of a future worth fighting for.
At a time when it was most desperately needed.
It's like this incredible blend of timeless values,
powerful delivery,
and perfect timing, all coming together to create something truly extraordinary.
You got it. It wasn't just a speech.
It was a moment that captured the spirit of an entire movement.
The March on Washington.
And King's iconic speech.
Remind us that words matter.
That peaceful action can create real change.
And that the fight for equality continues to this day.
It's a reminder that we all have a role to play in building a more just and equitable world.
And that journey, my friend,
begins by truly hearing and understanding the dreams and aspirations of others.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder King's powerful words and the enduring legacy of the March on Washington. What will your dream for a better future inspire you to do? Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, keep diving deep.
Thanks for listening to Mr. Hutchings History. Keep exploring, and we'll see you next time.